The word narrative shift takes you a really long way. Not to say that you have to be positive all the time, but just like having like 5 seconds of just being like, I can't control people. There's things that I can't control, but I can control my reactions and what I do. How do I flip the script that keeps me moving, that keeps me going? Because I feel like a lot of times, especially when you're starting, you get very like pushed down, you get thrown down, you get tested, you get all these things that like make you want to quit, especially really early on, because you want to feel like you're succeeding. So if you're able to like really control up here, I feel like that's like the biggest lesson.
All right, so thank you for being here today.
Cheers, man.
Really excited to talk with you and just hear more about you and your background. I've known about you through Instagram. Like
Let's go.
Many of us know about people from a distance,
Yeah.
you know, and I followed your work for a while. And honestly, even since like before COVID, probably like 2018, 2019.
Whoa.
Which would have been fairly early days.
Yeah. I moved to Kansas City in like 2018.
Okay.
So, and then I moved to this studio space that's like right down the street in 2019.
Are you at the Made in KC?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool space.
Yeah.
Do you have like a dedicated space there?
No, so I was there for about 3 years, and then I moved to Spain for a little bit, and then I moved back, and then I'm with Naya Rose, her Brush Co. studio space. Yeah, she's really cool.
Cool.
You should have her next.
Yeah, you mentioned her.
Yeah.
You sent her as a recommendation. And then that led us also to this conversation, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump into it. I want to start with something that I've been kind of starting a lot of these conversations with fairly recently, and that is just kind of throwing a question at you to kind of give context to who you are. So essentially, for both me, because this is also our first time meeting in person, but also the person listening, what is the major things, points, and context we need to know to understand who Itzel is and what she does?
That's such a heavy loaded question. Are we ready for this? Whoa. Okay, so I didn't discover this until recently, like my why or my how. So when you book it and work it, that's my slogan. It's just like very like all in, all about like elevating yourself and just like being proud of like where you're at and who you are and embracing like your higher self essentially. I didn't discover that until, this is gonna sound so weird, but until I discovered myself, until I found out who I was, like, you know, because back in the day I started photography my senior year of high school, and I was just shooting senior portraits for my friends. They couldn't afford the go-to senior person, so I was like, I'll shoot for free, whatever. And then so I was doing everything, shooting everybody. But when I got into the studio where it was really like a one-on-one, there's no background, there's no distraction, like it's just the photographer and the person, I was like, whoa, like this is so empowering. Like this is like, I don't know, like you almost felt like this transformative, metamorphic, like, I don't know, I'm rambling, but I don't know how to explain it.
No, that's good.
Wait, hold on, backtrack. So that all happened because back in high school, I lived with my family still, obviously, and I had an older brother, and we didn't get along very well, and he was kind of like my bully, I guess you can say. And so when I had the chance to empower and like feed someone positivity and like self-assurance and like self-affirmations and like all of that stuff, like it felt like I was talking to my inner child. So it felt like really authentic and it felt really giving. And I feel like that's the core of Book It and Work It and Itzel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did that kind of just
no, that makes total sense. What's crazy is you've already jumped into the concept of like serving others.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's like also serving and fulfilling you, which is like this loop that happens that we don't always realize is happening. But so that's cool that that's the heart of like, you know, it was a way to empower others, and you see it as like it's an empowerment thing, but it's also like healing a lot of that in you as well.
Yeah, because I definitely knew from an early age that I wasn't going to do a 9 to 5 and I wasn't going to be sitting in a little corner because I'm very like, so when I discovered photography, it was kind of just thrown at me. So backtrack again. So it was my senior year of high school and I was from this really small town and word of mouth got spread really fast. Facebook didn't even exist at that time. And I just started like working. And then Itzel, do this. And it just kind of turned into like, okay, cool. I guess I'm going to major in this. And then cool. Okay. I guess I'm going to get my business license. Okay, cool. I guess I'm going to work in the studio. Okay, cool. So it just kind of like felt really authentic. You're fulfilling others while you're like giving to others, but you're also like fulfilling yourself, that the authenticity part. Because I feel like people forget or they like just don't even know why they're doing things. And I feel like once you discover like your passion and it's also paying you, like that's the dream right there. It doesn't matter how much money you're making, what it is you're doing, as long as you feel like you're giving, but also like internally receiving, that's the dream. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
No, it's really good. And it's to be able to do that within a creative outlet is also the other aspect of it that's like, can be kind of rare. Like I think a lot of people will do photo, do video as a hobby, maybe make a few bucks, but a lot of people I think struggle with breaking the mentality of like, it's just a hobby. And if you just want it to be a hobby, that's totally fine. I think there's a lot of people who treat it like a hobby, who want it to be more than a hobby.
Yeah.
So like, even with where you're at now, like what would you say to the person that's like, feels that tension?
Yeah, I think it all comes down from like pressure of others. Like they start comparing themselves to other people that have been in the business for like 5-10 years on top of them. So they're just automatically already feeling like a failure. And they don't give themselves opportunity to explore. Like I feel like it's very like, okay, how do I get from this point A to point Z without like tapping into like, okay, let's say I do photography. How do I do like is finding a specific niche? Like, how do I do studio? Let me master that. How do I do wedding? Let me master that. How do I do family? How do I do whatever? And I feel like I struggled with that myself too, because even though I had been doing photography since my senior year of high school, I didn't know how to turn on flash. Like I didn't know like, you know what I'm saying? The technicality of things that, oh my gosh, that stressed me out so much. I would skip class, you know? And now that's what I do. So it's like, you have to give yourself opportunity to explore and even fail. And believe.
Well, you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too. Like you even mentioned, like, you know, when you jump in, there will always be someone who's further along than you or better than you or whatever, but like still have to jump in somewhere.
Yeah.
So that you can eventually be the person that's 5-10 years in, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise you'll just never start.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. I was like, dang, I've been in this for 10 years now. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's crazy.
What do you feel like has changed in your mindset around it? Like, you know, the concept of considering yourself like a full-time professional photographer, like how does that, you know, like when you think about who you were in your mindset 10 years ago, you know what I mean? Like how is it different?
I think I am more mature with it now. Like I have structure. There's like a routine with it. I think back then I was just trying to survive and like make it really, because I wasn't prepared at all. Like I wasn't prepared in the career wise, like the business side of it. I was trying to just focus on creating and I wasn't paying attention to how do you do taxes? How do I do this? How do I do that? Like it was so overwhelming that now like there's more consistency with it and more like discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The more the things that you have to do, but like you have to start with the creative aspect of it though. So it's like the good progression.
Yeah.
It's like you start out by like just being passionate and enjoying it and it's fun, and then you eventually learn how like, okay, I'm actually going to do this. I have to figure out how to actually keep track of it and monetize it and market it or whatever. Yeah. What would you say has been like, I'm just curious, like from your perspective, like what has been your biggest, from a marketing perspective, right? Has it been like the snowball effect of like word of mouth, or do you feel like it's just been like how are you getting clients? Like, what does that even look like?
When I first started, like I said, it was before Instagram was a thing. I think Facebook was popping at the time, is what I like to say. Because I started a Facebook, and that's how I would deliver all my galleries. I wouldn't send them by email because I was just so... And so, yeah, word of mouth just started going and rolling and doing its thing. And then Instagram started happening. But I think it helped that I was from a small town, so people like to talk. And then my senior year of college, that's when I started exploring studio. And I would commute to Kansas City almost every weekend and just starting to like... network with creatives and like just try to promote myself as much as possible. I think now that I've like established myself as a studio portrait photographer and really hounded, how do you say that?
Honed in.
Now that I've really honed in on studio photography and my brand as like this metamorphic experience, I think that in itself just really speaks. And it's really cool because people like, they feel it. Like they automatically come out of the studio and they go, whoa. And I go, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. It's just really cool. So I think it's just like word of mouth, networking, and knowing your niche. I think all three, that's the star right there. Yeah.
I think a lot of people really struggle with the niche concept, especially feeling like they have to, even really early on, pick like one thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that there's an interesting conversation around like what it looks like to niche down, and I think especially like most creative types really struggle with the idea of being honed into one thing anyway. You know what I mean? Like especially in the beginning. So how did you experiment, you know, in a way that felt like still fun and creative for you, but also in a way that helped you find kind of the thing that you know, liked in doing the most within photography?
Yeah. I guess the biggest takeaway from doing photography is that I'm a very people person. So I knew that I wanted to work with people directly. And then it started with families, seniors. It was all cool and dandy. I think a lot of people get either obsessed with weddings or they're super anti-weddings where they're like, yep, nope, next. And then once I discovered studio, I really liked that because it was a one-on-one. Mm-hmm. So I just started to push that. And creative ruts happen all the time. And just working with like one person and no like distraction or no other element where it's just you and that person, I feel like could get a little boring. So like you start to explore with lighting, you start to explore with wardrobe, you start to explore with poses, like always kind of keeping you on the toes where you're still doing the same thing, but you're like still exploring and playing with other avenues. Right now, I'm kind of discovering that myself right now with video. I never thought that I would get into video at all ever in my life, but it's kind of like, how do I do this in a way that feels authentic and it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm giving up on photography, or, oh, like I'm stepping into this and I feel like I'm going to fail, because that was a hesitancy that I had at first where I was like, I don't want to do it because I know that I'm going to suck at it. Like I know that there's other people that can do it better. So I started with still doing it in the studio, but hitting the record button instead of during the photos so that it feels like there's still a flow and it still feels like what I'm doing, but it's a video, not a photo. Like it's still really cool. And it still has the same effect on the client too, so that they don't feel like they're getting another version of it. So it's like the same one. Yeah. So.
No, that's huge. I mean, even within your context of like, it's also like I feel like it's like when you're taking a photo, people know that it's like posed, so that they know that they can like, whether it's an editorial thing or whether it's like headshots, whatever. But as soon as you throw in video, people like don't know what to do. It's like, what do you mean? Like you're going to get all my movements? Or, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, that's actually a really practical way to make it feel like your studio sessions, but actually capturing video at the same time.
Yeah. And I feel like when I direct my clients in photo, some of them can be very posed because some people need that extra help, and that's okay. But I won't shut up. Like, it's like I'm me right now, but times 10 on caffeine. It's like I'm talking literally 24/7. So when I hit record, they don't even know the difference.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just like guiding them through, and it feels it feels the same.
Yeah. So for the person who's not where you are, for the person who maybe is where you were 10 years ago, or maybe they're like still, hustling, grinding right now, trying to figure out what, aspect of photography they like or whatever it is. Maybe they're just 5 years behind, whatever. What would you say is like, if you had to give them your best piece of advice to encourage them, inspire them? It could be practical. It could be just that they just need to be encouraged, right? They're not where you are. So like, what would you say to that person who's, wanting to be where you are and they're just not there yet and they're feeling whatever you may have been feeling even a couple of years ago?
I actually had this person ask me this a couple months ago, and I was so blunt, but like in the nicest way possible. But when I went into my car and I sat down and I was like, whoa, that was probably really rude, but it was just very like direct. I literally, Nike, it's not that I'm like trying to take your slogan or whatever, but I was like, just do it. Like it's like very simple. It's you don't need these like little, let me tell you my life story and like, let me tell you like how I did and whatever, because everyone's very individualistic, but it's like, just start. Like just start. That's essentially all it is. You'll learn as you go. And we all have different, not like we all have different, what is it called? Like different steps and different like detours and different, roads,
like journeys and routes,
yeah. So yeah, I would say just start. But if I had to give you like the whole long story, not short, it's not to say that I'm naive to believe that bad things or bad people don't exist. But I've learned that like the word narrative shift takes you a really long way. Like, it's like, not to say that you have to be positive all the time, but just like having like 5 seconds of just being like, okay, I can't control people. There's things that I can't control, but I can control my reactions and what I do. How do I flip the script that keeps me moving, that keeps me going? Because I feel like a lot of times, especially when you're starting, you get very like pushed down, you get thrown down, you get tested, you get all these things that like make you want to quit, especially really early on, because you want to feel like you're succeeding. So if you're able to like really control up here, I feel like that's like the biggest lesson that you could take. Amen.
No, that's great. That's great. Like it ultimately comes down to like controlling what you can control.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of us get anxious or like, build up anxiety or stress over things we can't control, but that's pointless. Yeah.
Because when I first started my career, my senior year of high school, like I was telling you, in a small town, Marshall, not a lot of people know this, but I feel like a lot of people know this now. When I first started, there was a company called, I'm not going to say their names. Beep. No, I'm just kidding. And they ratted me out to the IRS. They called and they were like, hey, Itzel's performing. I probably had like, I don't know, a couple $100 to my name. And as a senior, 17 years old in high school, the first thing you do is like freak out. You're like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to get in trouble. Oh my God, I'm going to go to jail tomorrow. Like, what am I doing? And what am I doing? But instead of thinking and having that mindset, it's like, no, dude, you know what? They actually just helped me. Like, they just made me more credible at a faster rate than I was even prepared for. They just pushed me where I didn't even know that I was going to go. And so like they could have handled it in different situations where they could have hired me to work for them. They could have ratted me out to the IRS. They could have done whatever. And I could have just shut down and been like, okay, yeah, I quit. I give up. I'm scared. I'm intimidated. But instead I kind of just took it as a blessing in disguise. And I was like, yeah, let's freaking go. All right, book it and work it, Itzel. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Narrative shift.
No, that's huge. But you got ratted out to the IRS at 17?
Yeah.
There's more to that story. Obviously, you don't have to say names.
Yeah. You're like, wait. Spill the tea here.
You're only 17, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So 2013, February, I started shooting my friends who were seniors, and I probably had like 10 to 15 sessions in 2 months, and I started putting it on Facebook. So I probably hit like 5K in like less than 3 months. I'm saying like it was just everybody. It's a small town. People started talking. I started doing families. I started doing weddings, like all of that. But I didn't know how to value myself. So I wasn't making a lot of money. So I was just overworking and not getting compensated for that. But nobody knew that until this company found out and they called the IRS. I get a phone call and I don't answer unknown numbers, but I had a feeling, I had an inkling. Is that the word, inkling? And I said, hello. And they go, you've been reported to the IRS. You need to file your taxes and get a business license. And I said, like, I literally did not know what to do. I was like, okay, I'll be there tomorrow. Like, I don't even know where I'm going, but I'll be there tomorrow. And yeah, I mean, that's essentially like how I got started. Yeah.
So that at 17 is what basically made you like legitimize yourself.
Totally. I didn't even know what I was going to major in. I was enrolling to universities not knowing what I was going to major in until that happened. And I was like, cool, I guess I'm going to do photography. Yeah. The snowball effect.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Opportunities. Just be open to opportunities, I guess.
No, I mean, obviously there's probably still more to that story, but
he wants the tea.
but to your point, that is great. And that is something that like a lot of people, I know adults, grown adults, I know grandparents who don't go at life that way.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference.
Totally.
Again, there's a level of stress and anxiety things that we can't control, that we don't need to, whatever. But it's also like one thing you mentioned, you know, right when you were starting to talk about that was, like, yes, there are bad people who exist, and yes, organizations who would rat out a 17-year-old exist, and yes, there are individuals who do bad things, who maybe do have bad intentions, but like at the end of the day, most people are good.
Yeah.
And you can choose to see it that way, or you can choose to see the small set of people who do have bad intentions and throw that on the majority.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us just sometimes can have something like that happen to us at 17 years old and let that mark us for the rest of our lives.
Totally.
It's like people just have it out for me. And so, and now I have this chip on my shoulder but you chose to not let that happen and actually saw it as a way to legitimize yourself at 17. You're not even 18 years old yet, and you now have a photography business. You know what I mean? And
let's freaking go.
And now 10, so I would assume 10 years later, so you're around 28, 29?
28. Yeah.
So yeah, now 10 years later, you are booking it and working it. Where did that come from? And like, was like having the slogan like a personality thing for you that just naturally came out, or did someone say like, you need a slogan, like figure it out?
Wow. I guess we can like take this all the way back to 7th grade when I was enrolling for student body council or whatever. I'm not a rapper, but I said like, let me rap my introduction. So can I? Sure. Can I take the stage?
Take the stage.
No, I'm just kidding. I won't do it. Dude, I already feel it like it's going to go everywhere. But I always had a thing for like marketing. Like I really like catchy, like just whatever. So in 7th grade, I started, oh my gosh, what was it? My name's Itzel. No, hold on. I need to get it. I don't know. Whatever. We're gonna. It doesn't even matter.
It'll come at some point.
Yeah. But the point is that I always liked having like catchy. Like I love phrases. I love like expressions. There's random things that will come out of my mouth. I don't know. I don't know when Book It and Work It was born. I don't remember. But I just remember feeling like, whoa, like that one's it. Like that one is like I need to go trademark it because of that just perfectly describes not only my business, but myself and like what I want other people to take away, not just like their photography stuff, like the photos. It just feels so, I don't know, like book it and work it, like just do it. Like just take it as it is. And then like, I don't know. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Well, even from a marketing perspective, what it does, it does lots of different things, but even from like a sense of like urgency, it creates a sense of urgency in like clientele to where it's like, when like, you know, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is the amazing photos that I take. when you're ready to book it and work it, book it and let's work. You know what I mean? Like it just creates this sense of like
a positive urgency too. It's not like right now, like blah, blah, blah. It feels like, whoa, like I already feel the energy. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
No, that's real. And then it also is obviously memorable. And like, I think whenever you sent me Naya Rose, I immediately associated your Instagram account because you've had book it and work it in your bio for like at least 3 years.
My whole life.
Yeah.
As 28 years. I'm just kidding.
I'm like, no.
You're like, wait, Instagram, how old are you?
Yeah, no. So it's like even though it's something simple that might not necessarily like resonate with me, but like it's familiar still.
Yeah.
So it's like on every level, it still is like, there's no reason not to. So honestly, that's even a great piece of advice for someone to like figure out and maybe take time to like let it develop. Like don't just make up something just to do it.
Yeah.
Like make up something that actually resonates with your personality. Cause that's the other thing too. It's like, because who you show up on Instagram as well as who they get in the studio is the same person.
Totally.
And that's really important. And honestly, something I think we could jump into because I feel like there's a lot of people who feel this need to, I don't know if it's because they start when they start getting into work that maybe it doesn't feel like them and they don't know how to make the switch to work that maybe feels more like them. You know what I mean? And some people just have a hard time expressing themselves in their work. How would you say you have practically done that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like that's something that I've realized happened without me even thinking. Because I can recall some instances when I first started and I was doing families and I mean, not to hate, but like weddings and barns. I'm not a country girl, like at all. You know what I'm saying? But you kind of had to quote unquote perform or kind of feel like you were like relating to your client to feel like, and it just didn't feel authentic to me. So I don't know. I feel like there was a sense of control when we're in the studio and it's just one-on-one. And I feel like I get to paint the scene. Like I get to be like, I get to be me. I don't have to like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's, I don't know. That's a really like, hold on, let me think about that one.
Yeah. Well, even while you're thinking about it, what's unique about a studio environment is you control the experience.
Yeah.
So it's like, whether it's just a blank room and, you put on music and you put on a candle or some incense or you put on like, you control all of the first things the person sees, smells, hears, your experience when they talk to you and work with you. And so like, whereas when you go to a wedding, it's all running.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like you can't plan some of that kind of stuff. And so there can be some of like it may be easier to be yourself in a studio environment, but some people, I've talked to people who actually don't like the studio environment because they're not very outgoing.
Yeah.
And they like they want to just go run and gun and just be on the fly and the studio environment actually is intimidating for them because they feel like they have to be somebody they're not.
Yeah. Dang. Yeah. I think, I don't know. I think when I got comfortable, especially in like the photography aspect of it, and I was like confident in my skill, I think that allowed me to be like, okay, how do I explore like my professionality and like how I like present myself to people? So I think it was kind of a checkmark thing of like, okay, let me hone down on my actual skills so that I can, next step, how do I want to market myself? People seem to receive it well. Great. It's because it's who I am. So people are going to like receive it even better and like feel like more connected to it. And then 3, just do it. Like, I don't know.
No, it's good. It's great. To kind of switch gears a bit, because so you
start.
you mentioned, like it's been a while now, and there's some as you've matured and grown. It's not a word. As you've matured and grown.
I'm rubbing off on you. That's not good. That's not good.
There has been some of the practical things you've had to figure out, right? Whether it's contracts or, doing your taxes or schedule. A big thing I feel like that you probably can speak on in a sense, strictly just because of the amount of time you've been doing it and because of the way you started, is how do you keep a healthy rhythm and schedule in something that's like so, again, there's so many things you can control. Like you can control when someone books and you can control like your business hours and you control those kind of things. But when you're just starting, a lot of those things aren't like, you're just like, oh, I can shoot every Saturday and I'll shoot every Wednesday night and I'll shoot, like you just take whatever comes.
Yeah.
So what have you started to do now and what are you doing now to create some like boundaries within like when you work? Because yes, it's creative and yes, it's fun, but it's also work.
Yes. Okay, so this is where I was going to tap in and say, I didn't realize how much energy I give. And like, I have to take like 10 minutes before every session to just like complete like solitude. Like I'd need to just, I mean, I could do a 0 to 100, but it's always nice to have like, because I give so much and I like, it's almost, I could do an hour session and then I have to come back and literally sit in my car for like 5 minutes, like complete like silence. Eric can attest to this. Like, it's crazy. So knowing that I have like 10 minutes before and after each session to just for myself, so that I could give, so that I would be able to give so much to my clients. And then also outsourcing. I think a lot of people feel like because they are self-employed and they're a one-man business or a one-woman business that they have to do it all themselves, and they feel like they can't trust somebody else to do their job because it won't represent their brand or like whatever. And some of that can be true, but I feel like it's powerful and it's almost like uplifting even your own business if you're able to like outsource that, like network with other people. If they are awesome at like invoicing and answering emails and you don't have time for that, great, hire someone. If you hate editing, great, hire someone. If you hate your job, quit. Don't do that. But it's like, notice where your strengths are and where you feel like you aren't very good at, and find people that are really good at that. And then just, like share. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what does that even look like for you? Like, what would you say are the aspects of it that are your least favorite?
Dude, honestly, if I lived in a perfect world, I would just shoot. That would be it. I feel like I thrive in the studio with the one-on-one interactions. Editing is really fun. I can confidently say that I suck at like taxes. Like, it's just so intimidating, like that's like the other part of the brain where it's like not the creative part. So, I mean, just like knowing who you can trust to do your taxes or to do your invoicing or to do whatever, find them, love them, and keep them, because I hate that.
Someone, if this doesn't already exist, there might be, I don't know of anyone who's doing it in Kansas City, but someone should specialize in taxes and finances for creative freelancers.
Totally.
Because there's such a pain point for 99% of creatives because it's just, it's just the way we're wired kind of thing. And there are some who are more type A who can handle some of that kind of stuff. But then there are just most of us who are just like, I don't want to touch it. And I'm more than happy to pay someone to do it. But that's such a pain point for such a big group of people that if someone just like, if you're out there and you like,
my name's Itzel.
Call her.
Come find me, please.
DM her.
No, call me. Let's fucking work it.
And maybe even market yourself specifically towards creatives, because I could see that being a huge like.
Totally.
But anyways, that's right.
Yeah, I'm already stressed. Like, have you done your taxes yet? No, I'm just kidding.
It's coming up. Actually, it's not. We're like, you got time.
Yeah, we're cool.
Okay, so I'm curious. Because I'm similar in this way. You said something that really resonates with me. because I would also consider myself a very outgoing, extroverted people person. But it's like no matter how extroverted you are, you still need that like recovery time. It may just be a lot shorter of a recovery time than someone who's introverted.
Yeah.
So someone who's introverted might need to be go away for like 24 hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
35 business days. If you need me, don't.
Right.
Yeah.
But for like, I know for me, like even these conversations, they're so like life-giving and like just fun, and I enjoy it so much. But there still is like an energy that's given both ways, you know? And at least with this, it's like me to you and you to me, and it's like reciprocated. When you're taking photos of somebody, it can feel like you're just trying to support all the momentum. It's like, because they could be coming in and you don't know their energy. You don't know if there's someone who like will vibe with you. You don't know if there's someone who they may be a really introverted person and not very outgoing. You know what I mean? And so it's like you may feel like you're carrying the energy for an hour.
Yeah.
And that can be really like, you know, obviously taxing. But then you can go away for 5-10 minutes and sit in silence just to your thoughts. But either way, that like ritual of like getting back to like yourself and like your thoughts is healthy. Your personality just may dictate how much of that you need.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. I've done sessions where they're 4 hours back to back, and I'll probably shoot like 20 people, ranging from individuals to headshots to families to couples to dads who don't want to be there to 2-year-olds that are like sporadic. And each session is so different, and it's asking something different of myself. So you constantly have to be like this, regardless if it's like giving or receiving. You just have to be on your toes, and that in itself is like, okay, bro, like, whoa. But like I said earlier, like I think it's important to find something where you still feel like you're receiving. Like how I was telling you, where I hype my client up so much, I feel like I'm talking to my inner child. So there's always some sort of connection that I have to do early on, whether it's in that small interaction where I'm like, okay, how do we relate? And that is like what keeps me going. You know what I'm saying? And that's like, I think what pushes me through the session, because there are clients where like they're not extroverted like me at all. And I have to kind of like tone it down just a little and like not necessarily like match their energy, because I still want them to like express themselves. But like I don't know.
You could overwhelm them.
Yeah. Like you have to like just kind of read the room a little.
Yeah. Okay. So we now know who you are, what you do, how you do it, what you've learned over the last 10 years. I'm really curious, like, what you see for yourself for the next 10 years.
Whoa. Dude. Well, yeah, that's, wow. I've always said that I wanted to shoot for Vogue and be on the cover of Vogue for my selfish reasons. But I think my true intention with what I do is just to empower people. And I feel like I want to do Vogue for my own selfish reasons, because it's such a big brand and it's like the face of everything in fashion and editorial, like what I do. But I think in the next 10 years, like I really just want to like expand and work with as many people as I can in all ranges, like not just the people that are making millions and they want like this set director and like whatever. It's like I want to just connect with so many different ranges of people, because I feel like, I just think that's like so beautiful, where some people feel like they can't afford it. Back to like where I started, my seniors who felt like they couldn't afford a photography session, but then they left feeling like they were on the cover of Vogue. I think that's just so powerful. So I think in the next 10 years, I want to connect with as many people. Could be in Kansas City, could be back in Spain, could be back in, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about Spain. How did that come about? Are you originally from?
No. So I'm Mexican. My parents were born and raised in Mexico. And then I was born in California, moved to Missouri when I was 10. Culture shock.
Yeah. I bet.
But Spain was kind of like a happy accident. I had no relation. I didn't know anything about Spain other than Real Madrid, the soccer team, which go Real Madrid, but like not really a fan, you know? And I just remember like I took my first step in the university and I was like, where's your international center? Like, I want to go to Spain. Like, how do I get there? And then like that, like it just happened. And it's crazy because as a first generation American, like I didn't believe, like, you know what I'm saying? Like you don't think of like having that opportunity and then making it happen so quick. So I studied abroad there 2016, fell in love, went back like multiple times. And then I said, what would this look like if I actually tried to live here? Like doing what I'm doing in Kansas City in the country that I love. What would that look like? So I tried. I went for 3 months. It was cool. We learned a lot. But I don't know, something in the Kansas City community is so cool. And especially when you've already established your connections with people, I think it's so fulfilling in ways that are more than just for yourself. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that I can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been here since 10 then?
Yeah.
So you basically grew up here?
Yeah.
So as far as like family, like did a lot of your family move here as well? It's like, do you have family that's in Kansas City?
Yeah. So my mom's family, she's of 7 siblings, and they're tight knit. Like they're like a little pact. So they all moved to California together when they immigrated here. And then one of them, my aunts, was like, oh, we're going to go over there to Marshall. And then 5 years later, that's where all my family moved. Yeah. So I have a brother here in Kansas City. Let's go, Edgar. But yeah, big family.
That's cool. How is your relationship with your parents? Do you feel like how has that shaped the way that you do what you do now, even at an interaction level? Like, would you say your parents are also very like have your same energy?
Oh,
and like
dude, pause. Hold on, for real. Hold this.
Yeah.
Can we like zoom in on my phone? That's literally my parents. Like, check this out. Like,
oh my god.
My mom and I are like literal twins. I look like my dad, but I act like my mom. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this. Yeah, I act like my mom, but I look like my dad 100%. Okay, cool. Yeah, I love this one. So being first generation American, I feel like it just turns you into an automatic workaholic. Yeah. Like I feel like your success comes from your work. 'Cause you know, like it's the typical, they sacrifice so much and like you want to feel like you're giving back to them, like reap the rewards. Like it's like your sacrifice was worth it. I have 2 older brothers. My older brother is an accountant and my other brother is an engineer. I'm a photographer. It's like, bro, really, dude? I remember my dad saying, when are you going to get a real job? Like, what are you doing? Like, go apply somewhere. Like, go. Like, he wasn't supportive at all. And I understand coming from that mentality of like your success comes from being a doctor, being a nurse, having a degree. And I just remember feeling like a failure, like, whoa, but I really like this. And he didn't understand you have to like your job. Like your job has to pay you and that's it. And so I had to learn to push that aside and just kind of see the end vision of like, no, like, oh, whoa, like I'm going to break a generational, like, what is it called? Generational
curse.
Yeah. Like, cause it took a really long time for my dad to be accepting of it and be accepting of my work ethic. I think at first, like I was very much like him where it's just like work. And my mom is more of like on the playful side of like, no, but like go have fun and like go to Spain if you want, like go do whatever. And so when I was able to do both and feel good about it and not feel guilty and still like make money, because that is important, I think my dad was like, okay, like she did it, like she's happy and like that's essentially what matters, not what I wanted her to be, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think early on, like I was instilling both of their personalities where it was very much like work, but also play. So I don't know. I think that's how Itzel kind of was born.
Do you feel like there was a moment where it clicked for your dad, where that you can like?
When I stopped asking for money. No, just, yeah.
That's real.
Dude. I think when he just like saw me be persistent and determined and happy, I think that's when he was like, okay, she's got it. Because I think all parents, regardless if you're first generation or not, just want you to be happy. I think that's essentially like what it really is. And they want you to be taken care of. So when he saw that, he was like, okay, I can rest assured that she's okay. She's got it. And she's a business owner. Like that's pretty big deal. Like you can say you're a photographer, but also you're like an entrepreneur. Like if you really want to say it, like you can, you're an entrepreneur. So it's like, that's pretty big. Yeah.
No, that's the parent approval. And I think what's funny is like there's so much context around who our parents are and what life was like growing up that directly impacts to the fullest degree everything that we like become as we get older. And like, and now I even think about like my own kids. Like I would say now having kids, it makes me appreciate my parents more, like way more.
Yeah.
Like way more. Like I feel like
are they your wallpaper too?
They're not.
Yeah.
That's a good one. No, they're definitely not. And even like I was talking about earlier, like my wife's family, like that would be something more, probably similar to like your family. I grew up like my parents were very supportive and like championed like anything and everything I wanted to do, but they also gave me like a lot of room to experiment, to fail, to switch ideas and like for example, like I loved baseball, and so I played baseball, and then I loved football, and so then I wanted to also play football, and then I wanted to take a year off of baseball to play lacrosse, and they like spent like $3,000 on all this lacrosse equipment just for me to play like 1 year, and you know what I mean, like that level of like, we just want you to do what you enjoy doing, you know what I mean, and we just want to support it. Has 100% lended now to me being in this place where I'm like, I still feel like supported by them, and I still feel like I don't feel like I need their approval because I know I already have it. And I feel like that came from a place of just like having parents who just trusted me.
Yeah.
More than they probably should have.
Dude.
Like there was just like a level of trust where, and I also come from like a faith background and like grew up in church, and so my parents were they never forced any of that stuff on me either. It was very much like, we're just gonna raise you and teach you what we know, and then you can figure it out on your own. You know what I mean? Like they never forced anything. Faith, they never forced things that I had to do or their expectations, or like my dad was never the dad that was like, you have to play football and be the star quarterback. Like I never felt any of that external pressure, and it just really set me up for success now in life to be able to be in this place where it's like I don't seek their approval because I know I already have it. I don't seek others' approval because I know it's not always relevant. I don't, so it's like this healthy balance of like I don't have a huge need to want to like impress people, because that confidence was instilled at an early age. And I don't know why I'm talking about this.
No, this is great. I'm like, yes, go off.
But it's so relevant. And now like having kids, I'm like just really grateful for my parents for the way that they raised us. And now I'm like, how can I do that same thing? And not that they were perfect, because they weren't. No parents are perfect. But how can I create a healthy amount of like guardrails or boundaries, but within those boundaries they can really explore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw a previous podcast you did, and one of the girls was talking about boundaries with like the train tracks and building that fence so that they still have room to explore, but they're still safe. That
Yeah.
hit, I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. Her name was Brooke. She's you should link up with her.
Yeah.
She's awesome. She's a creative director here, but she's done a lot of projects even in like with some like artists in Nashville, and kind of broke into like a really unique scene over there, which is really cool, even though she's based here. But and they're a really cool example because like both her and her husband was the second episode. His name's Zane. They both are full blown in creative industry, like full time. Like she's a creative director, art director. He's a music producer, and they have kids. They have a good marriage. They have, and that's like also another piece of like what I would love for. You were even asking me like the point of the podcast and like what's my heart for it and stuff, and like to be able to give behind the scenes views of people who, like, to me that's success.
Yeah.
Right. To me, success is like healthy marriage, healthy kids. You're always giving before you take. You're serving others. You're thinking about the long run. You're not always looking for short wins. You're not, it's like, and I think that a lot of that has changed a lot with just as we come up on 30, a lot of that is natural, but then also you start having kids and that ages you a little bit, and you get married and you have kids, whatever. So it's, but yeah, her whole thing was like, because they have kids that are really similar age to our kids, and just about how essentially like you want them to feel like they have the freedom. It's not false freedom because it really is freedom, but you as a parent still have to set some level of boundary
Guard. Yeah.
to where it's not like dangerous, but like within those bounds, have at it, you know, like explore, have fun, whatever. And as parents, that really is like, I'm learning that's like that's what we're meant to do. We're not supposed to be, super, the word is escaping me,
Overprotective? No.
Yeah, overprotective can be one. And a lot of parents do struggle with that.
I am the youngest daughter and the only daughter. So I felt of a Mexican family. So it's like, I really felt that growing up from my dad, and then from my older brother too. I was like, whoa, 2 dads? Chill, bro.
Oh, man,
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned, your relationship with your brother. You have 2 older brothers. What's the age gap?
The oldest is 6 years older than I am, and the second one is 5 years.
Okay. So okay, and then you. And then that was it. So you're the youngest. Okay, so I would definitely imagine there was some level of like, obviously, again, a brother's heart. It's dual. It's dual with a brother, because a brother is like their intention is like they see how he probably sees how your dad treats you and like wants to like be protective in that sense, and like there's the sense of like protection, but then there's also a sense of like it's your brother, so he can like beat you up and he can whatever, because it's like he's your brother, like it's just literally a sibling thing.
Growing up was interesting, but I think tying it back to like the photography thing, I think that was kind of an awakening for me too, where it was just kind of like, dang, I was so bullied and like ridiculed and just like pressured into this little corner, and I was so like, what's it called, micro-focused, like, and I didn't have room to like explore and like be myself and express the way that I wanted to and dress the way that I wanted to and like be this like bubbly girl, because I was just sheltered so much that when I give the opportunity for others to do that, it's like, like inner self is healing. Like, this is beautiful. Yeah. So. Yeah,
you're fulfilling that also in yourself.
Yeah.
And feeling that. Yeah, that's honestly, that's a perspective that I don't think anyone has shared. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Like even to approach your creative work, which creative work is not as a service business, but like creativity is serving the person who's going to receive the creative expression. but seeing it as a way of like almost like creative therapy,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but like also getting to like get paid to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I struggled with that too, like very early on, because I didn't know anything about the business side of it, like taxes and stuff. I was so overwhelmed by like, I'm not making enough money, I'm not doing anything. And the moment that I stopped stressing about it, and I was just like, yo, money comes and goes, like having a healthy dynamic with that. Not that I became a millionaire, but it just kind of like happened naturally. And it like, I was able to focus my energy more on like how I'm relating to my clients, other than, yo, am I going to make it for my apartment deposit or whatever. But I was going to say something when you were talking about parents. I'm not a parent. So like hearing these conversations, I'm like, whoa, you asking me like in the next 10 years, hopefully in the next 10 years, I'm a parent. And like, I'm really curious to like hear this interview 10 years from now and be like, whoa, like lots have changed. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you are a parent, and then to look back and be like, your perspective then versus your perspective now, and like all that stuff.
I think it's really cool too, from my point of view, like as a first generation American, my parents, I mean, they were young too, like they were learning, they still are learning. But like, oh my gosh, like we can tap into another conversation here, but it's like, I was learning English in school and I was learning Spanish at home, you know? So like that is already something, but they were learning how like the American traditions and like the values and like, I just think it's so fascinating. Like how, I don't know. I just think
it was
so
a culture
crazy.
shock for them.
Yeah. Like they're learning how to be parents, period.
Yeah.
But then they're also learning like in the American way, like not what they and their ancestors had learned. I think that's just so fascinating.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Well, it's even like, we talk all the time about, you know, like things of like, that are like Western culture, like Americanized things, or like, especially like, I've had lots of conversations with people around the idea of like hustle culture and how it really is an American thing. And that doesn't mean that there's not people who work really hard in other countries, because it's not true.
Yeah.
But like the negative side of it, where it's like we have this like built up idea where it's like the American dream, right? Where it's like you work hard and you buy a house, and you have 3.5 kids or 2.5 kids, whatever it is, and you have a golden doodle, and you have a, you know what I mean? And it's like,
You're done. You made it there.
Yeah, that's like, but then there's also like the other level of it, to where it's like, so that's seen as success, maybe in American culture. And I'm sure there's a level of like, I do think success looks different. So like we have friends who are from New Zealand. So my wife was actually born in New Zealand, and her parents lived over there for a while, had her over there, and then moved back to California from New Zealand. But their culture is like, again, we're just wildly different. It's like New Zealand, Australia, it's way more like relaxed, and like, it's just different, like people focus more on their families, and there's, so it's like we say in America, like the dream is the house and 2.5 kids and the dog and the white picket fence, whatever. But it's like, at what expense?
Yeah.
Right. There's almost like, it's like we have the what success looks like, but it's like what it takes to get there, we don't really talk about. And for most people, it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
For most people, it's, I slave over this job, not because I have to, but because I want to get there sooner. Or I slave over this job because I don't, maybe I don't have the opportunity to do like photography full time, whatever. So it's like, I have to do this 9 to 5, and then I have to do the side hustle on the side, and then I have to whatever. And there is, for a season, it's okay to do that. Like, it's okay to like, but if you're doing that for 30 years,
it could be really taxing.
It's probably not just taxing on you, but taxing on your spouse and your kids.
Yeah.
And like, what is it doing to like your other relationships? And so that's not to say if you're in a season right now where it's like you just need to hustle it out, like that's okay. Like that's what it is. But maybe your whole life shouldn't look like that.
Yeah.
Like if, and again, I do think I am careful to be like that is subjective for people, because people have different backgrounds, come from different places, have different families growing up. And so some people and have different competency levels where they can hustle like that at a different level than I can. And that's normal for them.
Yeah.
But it's really like just knowing yourself.
Totally.
And knowing like at what point are you actually
like your true values.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's something that I really took away when I first went to Spain. It's like this whole thing, like sobremesa even, where there's no phones on the table. And then you sit after your meal for an hour and you literally just talk. It's like that dynamic, like that sharing time with others is so appreciated. Like when let's go like grab coffee and lunch, no one has their laptop, no one's working. You best believe, like if I'm doing a work party here, I have my laptop, I'm on my phone, I'm booking it and working it, whatever. Like that's just my automatic, like we're grabbing coffee, cool, I'm gonna work too. But over there it's like, no, like there's like a boundary, like there's like a fine line of no. Yeah. Well, that's crazy. I'm learning a lot.
I think it was Spain. We had some friends who lived in Spain it was somewhere over there, but they were talking about how they actually like everybody goes home for lunch and gets like
2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like an insane amount of time, and they like will take naps even or like whatever. It's like those type of rhythms are even culturally accepted, and so it becomes more of they may have a different perspective, right? Because they're not living in our culture, they're in their culture, and so that's normal. We're in our culture, and that's normal. So it's like there's the subjective view is based on the perspective that you're currently in, right?
Yeah.
But I am curious, like, what it would look like if we just, in our own ways, approached life a little bit more like that.
Yeah. I did hear that they were going to start to do like 4-day work weeks, no? Not that I'm in corporate, but
there are companies that already are doing it, actually. Yeah. I don't know. I'd be curious to see if it become like a super widespread thing, but we've even seen a shift in the corporate world, especially with like the rise of like tech companies, for there being a rise of like focus on the individual and the employees and their experience at work. And you have like Google and like Meta who have like sleep pods at work and like all
that's
the
so creepy,
all the
dude.
crazy stuff. So it's like we definitely like de-corporatized a little bit, and I think. But at the same time, there's been this rise of social media.
Yeah.
So it's like we went from like this like tearing down of corporations, like the big guy, whatever. And
now
so
the big
now
guy
it's
is
all
creeping, social media creeping over here.
Well, and again, it goes back into one of those things, and I'd even be curious to hear your perspective on this, but there's obviously like a lot of really great benefits of social media. We have the ability to reach way more people than we ever have with our work.
Yeah.
I mean, even from my example, like I can put up so the reel I did of Brooke saying about the fence.
Yeah. 12.5K views.
Yeah. So it went crazy. Yeah. What's funny though, is it didn't go crazy. And that's not like super crazy, but that was crazy. That's crazy in context of like where my other stuff is. The reason it went so crazy wasn't because people understood the concept of like healthy boundaries and whatever. It's because it ended up like taking off somewhere overseas, and it started getting all these like comments. Even on YouTube, I was getting like comments of like, "You Americans think you like live in you have freedom because you like live in a box and blah blah."
I love this accent.
It's like people like I don't think that was an accent. I think it was like people they misunderstood the context, but that's what made it go crazy.
Yeah.
It was like a misunderstood like mini viral
ironic
moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like, and it was like India, it was like, you know, maybe some parts of Asia. And just because I could see like the people who were commenting and responding and like liking it and stuff, it was like not in English, you know.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
Arabic or something.
Yeah,
you know what
totally.
I mean?
Greek.
And yes, and so anyways, but it just made me think about, since that moment, it gave me this perspective about social media of realizing, yes, we can reach a large amount of people very quickly, but are we reaching the people that actually are going to benefit what we're doing, or actually it's actually helpful because they understand the context and so it actually applies to their life?
Yeah, like how much do the numbers really matter?
Exactly.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's what I'm curious to even hear your take on, like, what does social media look like for you over the years of posting your work and interacting with people and, you know, having moments like that, whatever, you know what I mean? Where it's just like, as you've been growing Instagram, and your other social accounts, whatever, what have you seen as like the important things? And again, this could be practical, like focus on these metrics and not on these, or it could just be like a perspective around how you approach social media.
Yeah. I actually just had this conversation earlier this week where I need to delete Instagram because I'm just mindlessly scrolling. So I think you need to have a healthy boundary of like, when you open that, not necessarily you have to just open it to work, but like open it with an intention, I think is really important. Back when I first started in 2013, Facebook was it. And that really helped me. Like, I think the word of mouth with just Facebook. So God bless. Thank you, Facebook. But then I also like kind of stopped using it and tapped into Instagram. I think Instagram is my most preferred. I really enjoy the aspect of being able to instantly chat with my people and send them audio notes. That's my selling point. The second you interact and you inquire with me, bucket and work energy, let's go, baby. People know exactly the type of person that I am and like what they're getting. Boom, sold. Like, that's done. So I think like having a rhythmic, what do you say? Like a rhythmic, like not, how do I want to say this? Like a rhythmic relationship with it, I think is really helpful. I don't know. I've known people that are like multi-famous on TikTok, and I'm in Spain and they go, oh my gosh, yeah, isn't that the videographer from like the Kansas City Chiefs? I'm like, whoa, how do you know that? Like, that is just so like crazy. You think Kansas City is a small world? No, the world is a small world. Like it gets wild. But how impactful do I think numbers are? I mean, I don't really pay attention to the numbers because then that, like, you just start to compare yourself and you start to feel like you're not really succeeding. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think there's different types of people who use social media, right? There's majority of people, which is the consumer, right? We're there to be entertained, to consume information, maybe to consume something that is going to, we use the term add value, whatever. Like, maybe we're going to learn something about how to have a better bedtime with our kids, or like there's a lot of mom stuff, like that kind of stuff. We're just in that world right now. But regardless, there's most people are on it to consume, and I think that's where it can be dangerous. Is when you switch over from like, I use this as a business tool, to now I'm just someone mindlessly scrolling, consuming on a platform that I'm really not getting better by just scrolling. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I'll see, it's like we're searching for that one thing, and some nights you might not find it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, how do you even approach, has there been specific ways you've approached it as a business tool? You mentioned like, using it as a way to connect with people, but like, even in the way of like, I guess a better way of saying this should be, how much of your work, what have you seen be the payoff and the benefit of using it, that work has actually come through social media?
So I get primarily most of my clientele from Instagram, and I think it's because, the reels popping off, people get to see like me actually doing the work and how I communicate to the client so that they know what to expect. They get to see the final product, the photos, and the Instagram DM audio, man. Like, I'm surprised I didn't send you one. You know what I'm saying? But I think that's like the the biggest takeaways from
Yep.
Instagram. Did I answer?
No, it's good.
I don't know if I answered that.
No, that's good. No, honestly, I would even just say that, you know, the Instagram audio is like a really great just insight, because I feel like I know even algorithmically, if you care about that thing, that there are benefits to connect with people through audio in DMs. Like the algorithm likes that.
Yeah.
At least they did 6 months ago. Who knows if it's
Who
the
knows
same?
that? They probably hate it. That's probably why I lost 7 followers. Who knows?
They changed their mind.
Yeah, they said, bye, Itzel.
Okay, so I kind of want to have one last thing that I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on.
Should I answer it in Spanish? No, I'm just kidding.
You could. I might have to put captions because
I'm just kidding.
I don't speak Spanish. Although Mexican food
Dude, let's talk about that.
is by far
Let's talk about it.
it's my
Chilaquiles, man. Let me put you on chilaquiles.
Okay, so what's your favorite Mexican spots here?
My mom's house.
That's fair. Yeah.
El Centro, or not El Centro, Central Avenue, El Torito.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a supermarket, but next door there's like a restaurant. Cheap tacos, probably like $1.50. Really yummy, really nice. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
And the ceviche. Do you like ceviche?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I think we go to San Antonio's a lot.
Yeah, that's a good one. Michoacana, that's another good one.
I've heard of that one.
Have you heard of Taco Bell? No, I'm just kidding. Dude, bro.
Love Taco Bell.
Get me out. She's talking about Taco Bell? Oh, no.
Okay, so you mentioned, where you would like to, you mentioned Vogue, right? As like you'd love to shoot for Vogue.
What's stopping you?
What's holding you back? No, I'm actually curious, like in your work in the last 10 years, what has been your favorite moment or moments even of it, whether it's like a client you've worked with or whatever, but even just like looking back, a little bit.
I just took photos of my parents the other day.
Yeah.
That was really cool. Well, not the other day. It was a couple months ago. But yeah, like I just think it was really cool to, especially with my dad, because he didn't believe in the game very early on. So being able to show him my work and have him be a part of it, I think was really cool. Yeah, like we could segue here to photos of it. But yeah, I think that was like the most giving for me. In a more clientele way, probably those like really awkward sessions where people are insecure about my outfit's not as expensive, or I didn't hire a makeup artist, or I've never taken photos, or hey, I just got into an accident, my face is messed up or something. You know what I'm saying? Like those like really insecure or awkward people, you see the biggest transformations, and I thrive off of that. Like I'm just like, oh, like it's just, ugh. So I think those have been my favorite. And I also love moments of like personal projects, like having time for personal projects, because it doesn't feel, I don't want to say tasking, but it just feels like you're just exploring and playing. So I think most of my work from my last recent trip to Spain, I think was really fun because there wasn't an agenda. Like it was just kind of like go out there and like meet as many people as you can and like go explore and push yourself to shooting outdoors again. And like just being able to explore, I think has been really fun. So I think those are like my biggest 3.
That's good. That's really good.
And your next session that I do with your family.
It's coming.
With Bentley.
With Bentley. He needs to get a haircut first.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this today.
De nada. Let's go get some tacos, man. We're sponsored. El Torito sponsor us.
You can reach out.
Yeah.
I'll put their logo on the outro.
Dude, yeah, let's go.
But no, for real, thank you for being you. Thank you for shamelessly putting you in your work, because I think that's again, that's an inspiring thing, you know? And so thank you for not holding back whenever you even, I mean, I can even feel your energy even in your DMs, like in the way that you're responding in DMs. And like, I think the energy it's just really inspiring. And I know that it's, I can only imagine the impact it has on clients.
You'll see. You'll see.
So just thank you for your time today.
Yeah,
thank
man.
you for making it out here, and I'm really excited for you as you continue to book it and work it, and the impact you continue to make on people and individuals, but as well as your work grows and you get to do cooler and cooler things. Like, I'm just excited to see what the next 10 years holds for you.
We're gonna work it, baby. Let's go.